speaker will be Ramona on web animations. She's a developer at SAP, passionate about all things web, especially anything Vue related. Let's welcome Ramona.
Hello, thanks for the introduction. And now let me share my screen. This is the scariest part all the time because I have only one screen. I know, I'm a weirdo using just one screen. Okay, this is the one, share. Okay, and I'll have to make this very tiny. Hope you're seeing my screen and it's fine.
Yes, looks good.
Awesome, thank you so much for confirmation, because if not, I'll have like keep talking and talking. I have a very weird setup here because I have only one screen. I know usually people don't work only with one screen, but helps me to focus on what I have on the screen. And I had to kind of share my notes on the phone because I want to be sure I'm talking all the points that I want to talk about. Okay, so thanks a lot to anyone joining this session, taking your time to have a little fun about web animation with me. But I also want to thank for this conference and for the organization. It's pretty amazing and great that we have it in the ACP environment, and hope it's not the last one, and hope we'll have it like at least annually. And too bad that the organizers can't have like an applause, because usually we applaud the organizers. So maybe people in front of their screens, they can do that. But oops, let me introduce myself too, because conferences are also like about meeting people, getting to know people. So hello there. My name is Ramona Biscoveanu. I'm originally from Romania, but now I'm based on Côte d'Azur in France, and enjoying the wine and cheese. I'm actually a very wine and cheese snob. I know nothing about them, or they have lots of opinions. So if you need like recommendations, I can give you my recommendations about cheese and wine. I work as a developer in SAP, and I'm also on social media, on Twitter and GitHub. If you want to give me feedback, of course, positive feedback about the talk, you can find me on Twitter on Kodzovra, and same on GitHub. And also a mention that since this pandemic started, I become obsessed with plants. I have to say maybe the Mediterranean place also helps, because like everything just survives over here because it's everything. Okay, if you hear something, it's the fan on my computer. I can't handle this, like sharing screen, Zoom, me talking. A bit of a warning before I start, going into my presentation, because I'm talking about web animation. It's a lot of motion on my slides, so if you have problems with this, just listen to me. Maybe don't look too much at the slides. And because I gave you this warning, I also want to start with like a throwback. If any of you remember the state of the web in the 90s, and even early 2000s, maybe the young audience will be like, oh my God, look at this relic talking about the 90s and web. Well, if you don't remember, I have a gift for you. Back in the times, I feel like if there was no movement on the website, you couldn't have an audience for it. And the repetitive backgrounds, the colors, and all the craziness going on around. I'm not saying bring back that, because like it's a bit kind of too much. And also, like try to find a GIF with the 19s websites. It's very complicated. So I really think the person that actually did this GIF was very useful. But okay, I guess that's too much, and you kind of feel a bit like this now, right? I sometimes like to think like, why did they do all that back then? Because even if you think when MySpace started, like, and even now on the Facebook, all the glittery stuff, why do people do that? Like, why do people like all this like movement everywhere? And like people, I mean, why do they like the GIFs in their presentation? And also, I think what we also should mention, in the 90s, there was the era of when kind of like the Flash started, and I think that also favorized the whole movement or the motion on the website. And I think one of the reasons why we kind of like this is because as humans in our real life, we are so used with movement around us that we actually want also in other aspects of our life, like work or websites. And maybe this is the reason why they went like this really crazy in the 90s with all these. But yeah, I'm also curious why you think, why there was also like that big of a craziness with all those repetitive backgrounds and like spinning around. But not much about that, right? Let's think why we animate now, and why even feel the need to animate our websites. And I like to think that it's all about communication. Even if you think back why we even have the web, kind of is the meaning of the communication, right? I could use it for communication. And if we're looking at the current pandemic going on, the web really helped in the whole communication aspect. And if you think of the all animation and motion on our websites, what all this communication is about, I like to think it's not. It's exactly that. We try to grab attention to our users. All the flashy things that you see very aggressively on some of the websites that you really need to book your airline ticket, or I don't know, your room at the hotel because they have only one. Well, that's a bit too aggressive. We shouldn't do that. But that's an example of grabbing attention. Or also, we try to inform efficiently our users about things that maybe happened with their purchase order, or like something that whatever they do on our website. And there are also other ways of like communication. Sometimes on our websites, we like to have interactive content, and through animations, that's a good way of showing it. Also, it's very good use of storytelling. Like if you've seen those portfolios or personal websites where like people use the scrolling stuff, and it's so amazing. And also it's a very great use for indicating status and progress of a task. Just think of all the sliders and progress bars. Just imagine how it would be like if you just put them, like too ugly, I'll say. And I'll also say that it's not only about communication. This is my perspective. I think it's also about performance, because in the end, the users, and now just think of you as a user, our attention span when we browse the internet is like tiny, because like there's so much information out there. And it's also about the perceived performance. If your site it's like slow and it takes it's not, let's say 3 seconds, maybe our site start with slower than 3 seconds. Maybe the user feels that like being an eternity, and of course they're gonna abandon your website and just gonna move to the next one. But I like to think all these reasons are boring, and I know we should care about end users and us developers and all that, but also we're human beings and want to have fun when we program. Do you remember back in the times when we were doing like the flashy things, and they were like so much fun? Because to me, working with animations and trying to make things to move on my screen, it's like really, really, really fun. And I would like to present you a set of tools, and hopefully there's at least one person in this conference that feels like, okay, I want to know more about it and tell me how. So I'll try to present you some of the tools that I like to work in my personal experience with them. By all means, I'm not like let's say a very professional animator on the web. Really hope we'll get to use it more and improve our applications into SAP space, because I would say we really need to do that and care more about our users. And I'll start with the CSS, because if you think of it, came a long way. Back in the time, we didn't have the transitions and animation properties into it, and we had to do everything through jQuery and make things kind of move and work a lot, or use lots of libraries. But now we have the ability to do transitions and animations using CSS. And for people not very like technical, because this being like a mixed type of conference, think of the transitions. You have like 2 pieces of state, and the transition is like what happens between the two states. And the animations is like you can have multiple type of states. Actually, an animation can be a transition in CSS, but a transition never can be an animation. And the syntax is pretty like straightforward and easy. Maybe some of you already have seen it. You have your properties, the time, the function, and then the delays. But just pay attention, not all the properties, of course, can be animated, transitioned. And also not all of them are like equal. Some of them consume more than the others. I think the most efficient one, because they require the less repaints, are opacity and transforms. But if you think of with opacity and transforms, you kind of can do lots of things and lots of like small interactions, and I think that's enough. But engine transitions kind of offer a limited control over kind of the things you can do, and that's why I think they're best in using type of micro interactions when you do on hovers, and you maybe want to change, as I said, the opacity or the background color, or whatever you think of. And again, in the animation, it's you have more flexibility in the things you do. Of course, maybe some of you already seen the syntax. The thing here is like you can have the iteration count. What you see here is like a short version for like a lot of properties, like timing functions and other stuff. And I think now I have a demo for you. I try to build like very, very basic type of micro interactions, just using pure CSS, and then just mixing a bit of that with JavaScript. And I really hope it's still working. Yeah, it should work. So I built some tiles because, in ACP Word, we're so used with tiles in Fury, and just doing like small interaction when you're on hover. I'll not go into the code because maybe this is not very interesting for lots of people. But if you're interested, it'll be linked in my presentation, and I'm pretty sure the organizers will share all this with you. And another thing that I talked about is the progress bar. And of course, my Siri started talking with me. Sorry. The progress bar, because it's too sad like to just move your thing on like your line on the progress. We add like simile type of interactions on when a transition when the width it's changed. And I know maybe some of you will not really see very great animations because doing this through Zoom and broadcasting it kind of cuts the frames, I guess. And but yeah, if you want to see, I'll put all these and you can look at the presentation in your own environment. And of course, I created loading indicators, like basic ones, because that's what, when we think about animations, right? So like at the beginning, these are, of course, the jumpy one, because the jumpy ones are the best loading indicators from my perspective. And using JavaScript, I did interactive type of menu. When you open it, it brings you the slide now and effect of your page. But of course, for this, I kind of needed to use a bit of JavaScript. But this kind of shows that you don't need to use like fancy tools to do like small things that you improve the usability of your application. Of course, if you want to do more complex stuff using CSS, you also have CSS libraries that you can use, and you can achieve lots of stuff. And I have more examples for you here. I linked all the code pens and everything that I have here on the slides because it's nice to shout out to the people that actually did all the work, because I talked to loaders and that's their fun. I know I've read somewhere on the internet, it has to be true because it was on the internet, saying that someone did like a research how much time a user is going to wait on your page if you have like a custom loader. The conclusion is like, if you have a custom loader on your application, the user is going to wait more because it feels like you spent a bit of time and money to actually care about your users. So this is what we kind of try to do on our applications and types that we work in my team. For example, this one, we used it on a blockchain type of prototype. When we're waiting for the blockchain APIs to come back with responses to us, we were putting this like blocks type of interaction, which is pretty great. Of course, we customize it with our own colors. And also things that you can do with CSS and CSS libraries, not yelling at your users, but you can actually animate text. And I don't think it's enough animated text on the internet. And there's actually a great one here, apart from the ghosting, like the sailing one. Come on, we need these somewhere and something. And also because like I've been talking about tools and stuff. Another tool that made my life very easy when building applications and type of interactions motion on the website, it's been Vue, because they have a transition component, which is amazing. And of course, they took care of that, and they have a transition group, which is like for like a list, if you want to animate and how it enters and how it leaves from your application. And kind of how it works, think of it as like as a wrapper component that kind of allows you, when you're entering and leaving, to add classes for your component. And I like to explain this as it's in how kind of Vue works. For the component that is dropped into, or for the element that is dropped into the transition component, when it has kind of like to be inserted or removed from the DOM, it kind of looks if it has any CSS transitions on or animations, and if it has, it's gonna add the classes needed for that when it's the appropriate timing. And if you look at my thingy here, that is from the Vue docs, it's the same thing that I was saying. You're gonna hook it on the enter or the leave. So practically you have these two states. And if you think of the enter here, it's actually before your animation kind of starts, and all your code for your animation is gonna happen into the enter active and leave active. And enter 2 and leave 2 are the final state. But because, maybe this is not very clear, I have a very, very, very basic type of example. You see here, it's HTML element that is dropped into a transition, into the transition component. I have it when to be shown on my DOM, when to be appended, and I have a name for my transition. And of course, then I just treat it. You see here, like I enter when the way before my transition starts, my opacity is 0. And then, as I said, in the interactive and leave active, I'm just transitioning the opacity. Because I told you, opacity is amazing. There are lots of things you can do with it. And what's also amazing about Vue, it's that it has also JavaScript hooks. So if CSS is not enough for you, and I don't know, maybe you want to use some fancy stuff to do, you also have JavaScript hooks. And it's also, what's great here is that you have multiple ones. You can use even one of them. They have like different names in here, or you can use all of them. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's also great that it has like a CSS flag. So you can use them even like standalone, only the JavaScript hooks, or you can also use them mixed with the CSS, which is kind of great, right? And of course, I have a demo. An application, it's built like a storytelling type of demo. And I'll show it to you. Let me refresh. So what we tried here to do is like have a seamless type of like when users navigate through the pages, you have like the sliding, and then when you navigate again, there's the sliding, and we made use of the animations to kind of point the attention where we wanted in our like story. So you've seen like the notifications kind of sliding because we wanted that. We wanted to look at the notifications because those were important. And again, another example, it's here. When we navigated, we wanted to highlight the charts, and you've seen like the charts start moving, and it kind of helps with the whole attention on the page. And if you think also about the way we kind of transition pages on the web, it's not at the same level as it happens on the native applications, because on the native applications, it's so seamless, you don't even feel it. And I have to say, they really master it the ways they do it. And I think we are still like working to make it better on the web, because, and I think it's very important, because as a user, I feel like it's important, because every time you kind of navigate to another page and you have like lots of information, you kind of have to mentally remap whatever is in there and like look at the new information, what's changed and what you're looking for. So Vue, it's also awesome for this type of things. And there's also Next, like the Next.js that's on React for Vue. which they do awesome page transitions. It's so easy to use it. It's just like built in. You just generate a project and it's in there. And another awesome thing that you can do in Vue for animations and stuff is that you can animate your state, and it's so easy. You can use like watchers and you kind of look at your reactive data, and when it changes or something, you can animate that, which is kind of awesome and so easy. And because I think we should transition to something else, not talking about CSS much. If you look at the CSS and how it kind of works, you kind of have only two handles that you change for the Bezier curve, and you kind of work with these two like handles to kind of generate the movement. But JavaScript, it's awesome because I like to think you have endless handlers to kind of create your movement. I like to kind of say to have different paths for your bouncing ball. You can go up and down, and then linear. So this is where like JavaScript, it's amazing. And it's because also you can create more complex type of animations and interactions and any type of motions you want on your website. But it can't be a talk about web animations without mentioning SVGs, scalable vector graphics. That I think, again, I feel like we should use it more in our websites because they're awesome, they're performant, and I love them. And they're very easy to animate. And also they use math, and that's kind of like great. I will not go into explaining what SVGs because being like a design and tech type of company conference, pretty sure people already know about it. But when you combine SVG and JavaScript, and especially GreenSock, because it's my favorite type of library because it does lots of things, you have a full party, and that's so much fun. Of course, you can do animations that can never be used in any of the websites because those are not like performant because you'll animate useless stuff. But it also opens the whole creativity area that you, which I think we should do it more to play with the stuff because you get to learn a lot of like just playing with SVGs and with GreenSock trying to animate it. I learned so much about the browser's APIs and lots of other stuff, which I wouldn't have played with that. I would never have known. And I have a demo here. I hope I can open it because that's the bar. Okay, let me refresh it. And I hope my internet works. Yes, works. I did here a data visualization on the CO2 emissions by country, which is not very important. And probably if there's any data visualization expert on this conference will be like, oh, radial charts, those are bad. Not the point. It was meant to just make like the very sound-like type of visualization. And I did this in Vue, and I'm using Vue to generate my SVGs. And I'm calculating all the data for my SVGs using D3. And I'm using GreenSock to actually animate. So if I click on start, the year should change. And you might see that the bars are like slightly changing their height. So I did that using GreenSock. And I'm gonna stop this because my computer is going very nuts. And how I did it, yeah, you'll see here I'm using the watcher on my data. I think that's I was saying that you can actually animate the state. Of course, in kind of if you ever worked with GreenSock, you'll be like, you know that you kind of need the ID when you work with. So I'm grabbing the ID for each of my arcs, and then I'm just applying the twin max and the is in out function for each of the bar when it kind of changes. So that's all I had to do to get all that animation. It took me longer to get the data and to beautify them. But it's also like we can do more than other stuff and maybe useful stuff for enterprise type of applications. Of course, this is not going to be an example for very enterprise type of applications, but this one is using also like the morph plugin. And it's very great because you click and it puts the bottle on your cart, and it's like so amazing. I will click it lots of the time, add lots of products in my cart just to see that. I added another one, which is like a complete order. which is like it's in Team TCP type of business, which is awesome, right? It's great to see the car like moving. And I added just a fun one at the end. I will not go more into because I'm pretty sure I kind of expired all my time now. I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. If you add your, so it's gonna eat your email and then it's gonna give you like a notification. We need more of this silly stuff on the internet because why be so serious? And this has been my talk. Thank you so much for joining in. Hope you liked it. If you have questions or remarks, you find me on Twitter or GitHub. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Ramona. We have 4 minutes left, so we can answer some questions. I'll pass it over to Peggy.
Hi, Ramona. So for your Q&A, we did have a couple of questions from the audience. Let me just bring them up. So someone was asking, is there such a thing as overusing animations, and when should we not use animation?
Oh, yes. That's something we should kind of take care. If you feel like you're getting dizzy just looking at your page, yes, don't do it anymore. I think in the animations world, less is better.
Awesome, great. Yeah, I definitely agree. And another person was asking, are there any consideration to be made for the viewer's PC performance when using various animation on web apps?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't get the whole question.
Yeah, sure. Are there any considerations to be made for the viewer's PC performance when using various animations on web apps?
Oh, yes, of course. Because, for example, if you try to animate how's called like the shaders in the SVG stuff, no, your computer will not be able to do anything. Like, it's just gonna be blown away. And yeah, I think you have to kind of pay attention on the whole repaints that happen on the page because, that's kind of what you have to keep in consideration. That's what I was saying. Some properties will are more costly than the others, but this is actually a nice segue. I think now in the browsers we have amazing tools to actually debug animations, and we can look at all performance stuff.
Awesome. So these are the questions that we received. Someone did ask in the chat that what was the blockchain project?
Oh, not important. It was just a prototype. So
great. Thank you so much.